Here's how we helped a jobless man get over $100,000 for his fixer-upper property that needed over $70,000 in repairs. He didn't have the money to repair it, he didn't have a job, and he didn't even know how to sell the property or what to do, but he knew he had to sell it. Okay, the first problem we encountered is that he was an alcoholic. Okay, why does that matter? And that's no disrespect to anybody struggling with addiction or alcoholism. Okay, but the reason why that's important is when we would call him, would have a conversation with him, and let's say, okay, we're gonna follow up in 3 days, he wouldn't pick up his phone because he was probably drunk. The second issue we ran into is he did not have an email address. So every time I had to communicate with him, I physically had to leave the office, go to his house, get him to sign the paperwork and email it back to the title company. Problem number 3, the property was an inheritance. Okay, so we had to involve his sister who had also inherited the property in order to sell it. Now, when we're buying or selling a property, I never like to do business with somebody who's incapacitated. For example, he was a drunk. So luckily he had his sister involved and she was sane and stable, and we were able to get this to the finish line. So that's problem number 3. Also, when you get an inheritance, if you have no will, like this case scenario, we had to do what's called an affidavit of heirship to prove that they're the rightful heirs to the property. So the deal with this sister, if I'm remembering correctly, is they actually inherited 4 properties. He got 2 and she got 2. So the reason he was selling this property is because it was inhabitable and he was going to move into his other property. So the fourth challenge we ran into is he needed help moving his stuff. Like I said, this guy was an alcoholic. He didn't have a job. He didn't have any money. So what we did is we actually paid for movers to move his stuff from this house to his new house. So basically the story is we got this lead. He wasn't answering his phone, so I pulled up to his house, I knocked on the door, found out he was an alcoholic. He didn't have an email address, so I had to physically take all the paperwork to him. It was inheritance. On the day of closing, we found out he had a $30,000 child support lien. And if you don't know this, if you have a child support lien, a tax lien, you cannot sell a property unless that gets satisfied. So we're already all set to close. We had already had scheduled the movers. He was going to sign and the movers were going to take his stuff that same day. Everything was good to go. But he was refusing to sign because he was expecting $100,000, but with this child support lien, he was only getting $70,000. Now, every agreement we sign, we always specifically say, this is the price we're going to buy it for, but you are responsible for any taxes or liens owed against the property. Okay, so we had clearly stated that he was responsible for this, but some people think that they can get away with not paying child support. So he was refusing to sign. I had to get his sister involved, and we negotiated with him, and we're like, hey, we're gonna pay up to $10,000 on that child support lien. So we went back and forth, and eventually he agreed. Because I explained to him, look, man, this is your responsibility, and the house itself needs major repairs. It needed a new roof, it needed new plumbing, it needed the whole interior update. So that's what we did for Mr. Forrest. We helped him get over $100,000 for his property. We helped him with movers, and we helped him with the paperwork to get through title so he could finally sell his property.